following is a feature presentation of the Replay Sports Channel, the home for great games. This telecast is copyrighted by the WFL for the private use of our audience. Any other use of this telecast or any pictures, descriptions or accounts of the game without the WFL's consent is prohibited.
So, imagine you are holding the football for over 34 minutes in a championship game.
Which is an eternity, really.
Right. And you rack up 25 first downs. You outgain your opponent by, what, nearly 100 yards?
Easily.
You're moving the ball down the field at will. You're just dominating every underlying metric of the game. And then, at the end of the day, you lose your ticket to the championship.
Yeah, that mathematical impossibility just happened to the Birmingham Americans.
It's crazy.
It looks like a misprint in the box score, doesn't it? I mean, we are so conditioned to believe that whoever controls the ball and generates the most yardage dictates the outcome of a football game.
Right, because usually they do.
Exactly. But volume is an illusion if it doesn't convert at the point of leverage.
And that profound contrast between generating a massive amount of sheer activity versus generating actual tangible results. That's the entire mission of our deep dive today.
It's a great topic.
Welcome in, everyone. We have a fascinating source document on the table today, which is the Conference Championship Review.
Really good stuff in there.
Yeah, we are going to extract the vital takeaways from these two semifinal matchups. We want to understand exactly how the Denver Gold and the Chicago Fire punched their tickets to Pantheon Bowl XT4.
And, you know, honestly, whether you are managing a sports franchise or leading a corporate project or just trying to optimize your own daily routines, the lessons hidden in these box scores are universally applicable to you.
Totally. Because we are looking at a masterclass in contrasting methodologies here.
We really are. Denver showed us how to survive and ultimately win when your offensive production is entirely suffocated.
Right.
But what happens when a team is the one doing the suffocating? That is what we saw on the other side of the bracket with Chicago. Both teams reached the exact same destination, but their blueprints are just polar opposites.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with that suffocated Denver team. So looking at the National Conference Championship at Vanguard Field, it is a rainy Sunday, the conditions are messy, and the Denver Gold stun the Birmingham Americans 21-16.
What a game.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the illusion of volume earlier, so let's look at Birmingham's offensive data. They had quarterback Bo Nix playing out of his mind as a dual threat.
It was everywhere.
Right. He throws for 186 yards, but he also scrambles for 77 rushing yards on just 8 carries.
Yeah, and then you have running back Chuba Hubbard adding another 77 rushing yards and a touchdown. Plus, receiver Jahmyr Chase reeling in 8 passes for 91 yards.
They outgained Denver 346 yards to 268. I mean, Birmingham is just chewing up yardage in massive chunks all afternoon.
They really were. They built this beautiful high-speed highway that just abruptly ended in a brick wall.
It's like a business with incredible gross revenue, but terrible profit margins.
Oh, that's a perfect way to put it.
Birmingham drove down the field repeatedly, doing all the heavy lifting between the 20-yard lines, but they had 3 separate red zone trips stall out completely.
Which is brutal in a championship game.
Yeah, they were forced to settle for Cairo Santos field goals, including a 20-yarder and a 32-yarder. Denver, meanwhile, only had 2 red zone trips the entire game. Just 2.
And they scored touchdowns on both of them.
Exactly.
What's fascinating here is the underlying mechanism at play, which is the geometry of red zone football.
Okay, break that down for us.
Well, when you are operating between the 20-yard lines, an offense has the luxury of space. You can stretch a defense horizontally with perimeter speed or, vertically with deep post routes and go routes. The field is an open canvas.
Right.
But the moment you step inside the 20-yard line, that geometry fundamentally collapses. The back line of the end zone essentially acts as a 12th defender.
But wait, let me jump in here. Because if the field gets compressed and traditional passing routes break down, shouldn't a scrambling quarterback like Bo Nix be the ultimate red zone weapon?
You would think so.
Right. Like, if he's already rushing for 77 yards in the open field, why couldn't he just create chaos with his legs down by the goal line?
It's a great question, but you have to look at how defensive assignments change in that compressed space. In the open field, safeties have to backpedal to respect the deep pass. And that deep drop is what creates the massive running lanes for a scrambling quarterback.
Oh, because they're vacating the middle.
Exactly. Inside the 20, the deep vertical pass is mathematically eliminated by the boundary of the end zone. So those safeties don't backpedal anymore. They plant their feet at the snap and play incredibly aggressive downhill football.
Wow, so the space just evaporates.
Completely.
Yeah.
There are still 11 defenders, but now they are crammed into a 15-yard box. Throwing windows that were open for 2 seconds in the middle of the field are now open for like 0.2 of a second.
That's insane.
By the time a quarterback breaks the pocket to scramble, there is a linebacker already in his face.
So the defense actually uses the boundaries of the field to their advantage.
Precisely.
Denver didn't panic when they gave up an 80-yard drive because they knew the math was going to shift heavily in their favor at the goal line.
They stiffened when the field shrank. They forced Birmingham into those low-margin Cairo Santos field goals. And in football, when you are trading 3s for 7s, you inevitably leave the door open for a late surge.
Which brings us to how Denver actually executed that surge. Because surviving a statistical beating like that doesn't just happen by accident.
No, it takes extreme discipline.
Yeah, you look at the source material, and it highlights the composure of their veterans.
Yeah.
Like quarterback Geno Smith plays a flawless 0-turnover game in terrible weather.
Which is so hard to do.
Right. He goes 14 of 22 for 154 yards. He throws a 3-yard touchdown pass to Mike Evans.
Which happened to be Evans's 80th career touchdown catch, by the way. An incredible milestone.
Yeah, just amazing. And then you had Cedric Tillman stepping up with 4 catches for 62 crucial yards. But the undisputed king of this game was Derrick Henry.
Oh, man. He was a physical force of nature out there.
He had 24 carries, 135 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And the timing of those scores was everything.
Yeah, talk about clutch.
He rips off a 30-yard burst right before the half. Then, when Birmingham takes a 16-14 late lead, Henry caps off the game with the decisive 6-yard go-ahead score with just 2.50 left.
Incredible.
Oh, and right in the middle of all this, he becomes just the 11th player in World Football League history to break the 8,000 career rushing yard mark.
Unbelievable career.
But, you know, looking at this blueprint, I have to challenge the narrative a bit.
Go ahead.
So Denver is a wild card team. They're the first wild card team to reach the title game since the 2018 Toronto Hitmen.
That's right.
You are pointing to their situational awareness, but let's be real here. They are relying on an aging running back with a lot of miles on him, an older quarterback, and a veteran receiver, all playing in the pouring rain.
I see where you're going with this.
Are we sure this is actually a reproducible tactical advantage? Or did Denver just get incredibly lucky that the weather slowed the game down to their speed?
It is tempting to write it off as a nostalgic lightning in a bottle moment.
Right.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture and look at the mechanics of late game execution, veteran experience is highly measurable. It is the ultimate tactical advantage because it neutralizes defensive momentum.
Okay, so
Well, look at the fourth quarter. Birmingham goes on a grueling 16-play, 80-yard drive that eats up more than 8 minutes of clock to take that 16-14 lead.
a huge drive.
Right. For a younger quarterback, the psychological weight of that moment is crushing. You feel the game slipping away, you feel the need to make a hero play, and you force a pass into double coverage.
You speed up your internal clock.
Yes, you start playing faster than the game allows. But how does Geno Smith respond? He doesn't press. He steps onto the field and orchestrates a 75-yard march in just over 3 minutes.
So calm.
Tactically, he simplifies his pre-snap reads. He knows the defense is expecting a deep, desperate shot, so he takes the quick underneath throws.
Right.
He acts as a metronome for the offense. He drives them down to the 6-yard line and hands it to Derrick Henry.
A man who has literally seen every defensive front imaginable over his 8,000 career yards.
Exactly, to just punch it in. While Birmingham expended all their physical and emotional capital generating empty volume, Denver conserved theirs for the exact moments of highest leverage.
They executed with a scalpel.
Beautifully said.
Now, Denver showed us how to survive when you are suffocated. But what happens when an offense is the one doing the suffocating?
A very different story.
Yeah, let's pivot to Sky Global Stadium, where the Chicago Fire absolutely dismantled the New Jersey Hitmen 37-23 for the American Conference title.
Yeah, if Denver won with a scalpel, Chicago won with a steamroller.
The contrast is genuinely staggering. Denver survived. Chicago conquered.
It was absolute wire-to-wire dominance.
Chicago controlled the ball for over 35 minutes. They outgained New Jersey 375 to 293. They went 6 for 10 on third down.
Unstoppable.
And in direct contrast to Birmingham's struggles in the red zone, Chicago scored touchdowns on 4 of their 5 red zone trips. We're looking at a 13-3 juggernaut operating at a terrifying level of efficiency.
It is the synthesis of a perfect offensive blueprint.
Let's look at the distribution because it's wild. Baker Mayfield finishes with a 139.3 passer rating.
Near perfect.
He goes 20 of 23 for 241 yards with 0 interceptions. You have running back Jahmyr Gibbs rushing for 108 yards and 2 touchdowns on 22 carries.
Just wearing them down.
Yeah. And because the run game is working, Mayfield just sits back and distributes the ball to this elite receiving core. George Pickens gets 94 yards. Jerry Jeudy gets 53 yards and a touchdown.
Amon-Ra St. Brown gets 43 yards and a touchdown.
Right. Throw in a 27-yard field goal by Cameron Dicker, and it's a completely balanced assault. But here is the mechanism that really stands out to me. Here's where it gets really interesting. Chicago didn't feel like a football team. They functioned like a boa constrictor.
Oh, I like that. Explain how you mean that in a tactical sense.
Well, a boa constrictor doesn't kill its prey with one violent strike, right? It wraps around you, waits for you to exhale, and then tightens its grip so you can't take your next breath.
Wow.
Every time New Jersey punted the football, every time they exhaled, Chicago tightened the grip with a 7-minute third down converting drive. They left New Jersey with less oxygen, less clock, and more desperation on their next possession.
That is a phenomenal way to visualize what offensive balance does to a defensive front seven.
Thanks.
Because when we talk about Mayfield going 20 for 23, it's not just because he was throwing incredibly accurate passes. It is because of the geometric voids created by Jahmyr Gibbs.
How so? Walk us through that.
When an offense establishes the run the way Chicago did, 108 yards on 22 carries,
Right.
the Mike and Will linebackers in the middle of the defense cannot just drop back into pass coverage. At the snap of the ball, they have to take 2 false steps forward to honor the threat of the run.
Because Gibbs will just gash them if they don't.
Exactly. And those 2 false steps forward create a mathematical void in the intermediate zone, roughly 10 to 15 yards downfield. And who operates exclusively in that intermediate zone?
Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jerry Jeudy.
Yes. Mayfield wasn't throwing into tight coverage. He was throwing into structural voids that his own running game had created.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
He is just taking the open space the linebackers vacate. And that kind of efficiency, like converting 60% of your third downs and 80% of your red zone trips, it puts an impossible psychological burden on the opposing offense, doesn't it?
It fundamentally alters how the opposing coordinator calls plays.
Right.
If you are the New Jersey offense sitting on the sideline, watching Chicago slowly march down the field over and over again, you realize that your margin for error has been mathematically eliminated.
Every drive has to be perfect.
Right. A 3-and-out isn't just a bad series anymore. It might literally cost you your season.
Which perfectly explains the immense pressure that fractured New Jersey's game plan, forcing them into a one-dimensional trap.
Yeah.
And to be fair to the source material, the Hitmen didn't just roll over. They put up a significant fight.
They really did. They showed remarkable resistance early on.
Yeah, kicker Jake Little kept them in it with 3 field goals, including a 25-yarder. Justin Herbert throws for 216 yards. Tyrone Tracy Jr. scored 2 touchdowns.
One of those was capping off a 61-yard drive on the ground, and the other was a receiving touchdown right at the buzzer.
Right, and Isaiah likely contributed 88 explosive receiving yards. But here's the fatal flaw that broke them. They could not establish a ground game of their own.
That was the turning point.
Joe Mixon was completely neutralized, held to just 34 yards on 11 carries. The entire New Jersey team managed only 91 rushing yards.
And against a machine like Chicago, you simply cannot survive as a one-dimensional offense.
You just can't. Which leads to the game's final dagger. It's 24-16 in the fourth quarter. New Jersey is hanging on by a thread. Chicago's Jahmyr Gibbs breaks loose for an 11-yard touchdown to make it 31-16.
A huge blip.
On the very next possession, New Jersey gets the ball back, down 2 scores, they have to throw. Chicago linebacker Smith reads Justin Herbert perfectly, steps in front of the pass, and returns it 31 yards for a pick 6.
Boom. 37-16. Game over.
Game over. But I want to dig into the mechanics of that final sequence. So, what does this all mean? Why does a one-dimensional offense even one led by an elite talent like Justin Herbert, inevitably turn the ball over when forced to play catch-up against a balanced team like Chicago.
This raises an important question about the compounding weight of game scripts.
Hmm?
It all comes down to the geometry of the pass rush.
Okay.
Defensive ends and edge rushers are taught to read the offensive tackle at the snap. If the tackle run blocks and steps forward, the pass rusher has to hold their ground and defend the edge.
Right, to contain the runner.
Exactly. But when the defense looks at the scoreboard and sees they are up by 2 scores late in the fourth quarter,
Yeah.
and they look at the stat sheet and see Joe Mixon is averaging barely 3 yards a carry, that run responsibility vanishes.
So they stop reading the tackles entirely.
Exactly. They pin their ears back. They know you cannot run the ball, and they know you absolutely must score quickly.
So they just attack.
The edge rushers convert into sprinters, aiming directly for the spot 7 yards deep where they know Herbert is going to set up.
Wow.
That intense, immediate edge pressure speeds up the quarterback's internal clock. Herbert feels the pocket collapsing a half-second faster than usual, which forces a slightly premature throw.
Just rushing into tiny.
Yeah, and that fraction of a second is all a seasoned defender like linebacker Smith needs to jump the route. The interception return wasn't just a great athletic feat, it was the mathematical result of New Jersey being backed into a tactical corner.
Chicago's balanced offense built the trap, and Chicago's pass rush snapped it shut.
Precisely. The offense's efficiency effectively orchestrated the defense's interception.
It is incredible to look at the game as a single connected organism like that.
It really is.
And this perfectly sets the stage for an absolutely epic clash 2 weeks from now. Pantheon Bowl ex Support at Cobalt Arena in St. Louis.
I cannot wait for this one.
We are going to witness the ultimate contrast in football philosophies. You have the Denver Gold, the resilient surgical wildcard team that thrives in messy situations and maximizes a tiny handful of high-leverage opportunities.
Yeah.
And they are colliding with the Chicago Fire, the overwhelming, balanced boa constrictor machine that simply eliminates mistakes.
It is the classic unstoppable force meeting the immovable object. The tactical adjustments between these two coaching staffs in St. Louis will be analyzed for years to come.
And for you listening right now, it is absolutely worth taking a moment to view your own projects, your own business, or your own daily goals through the lens of these two games.
Definitely.
Are you operating like Birmingham? Are you burning a massive amount of energy, holding a lot of meetings, generating tons of gross yardage, but failing to close the deal when you enter the red zone of your projects?
Such a good question to ask yourself.
Or are you operating like Denver and Chicago?
Yeah.
Are you maximizing your high leverage opportunities when the field shrinks, the pressure mounts, and the execution actually counts?
That is the ultimate test of true productivity versus mere activity. And it leaves us with a lingering thought to really chew on as we look ahead to the championship.
Let's hear it.
If heavy possession teams like Birmingham and New Jersey can completely dominate a game between the 20-yard lines, but still lose their chance at a title because they couldn't convert in the compressed space of the red zone, do we have a fundamental flaw in how we evaluate success?
Oh, that's interesting.
Does modern football, and perhaps our modern data-driven culture as a whole, overvalue gross metrics like total volume and time spent on a task, while deeply undervaluing the pure psychological grit required in situational high-leverage moments?
Wow. Yeah.
When these high-yardage, low-efficiency teams sit down in the off-season, they're going to have to look in the mirror. What will they have to change about their core philosophy once they realize that simply moving the ball is no longer enough to win?
A lot of busy chefs running around the kitchen, but no actual meals making it out to the dining room.
It is a harsh reality that every leader eventually has to confront. Well, that is going to do it for our deep dive into the conference championships today. Thank you so much for exploring the data with us, and we will see you next time.